Hi everyone, Nancy Morris here with another edition of the Morris Code. Today is episode 14. Dear Nancy, I always have so many unfinished projects on my desk. Why? It's a great question and one I'm often asked because people want to know why it is that they're not completing stuff. They have papers and projects and tasks sitting on their desk and they get partway through or almost all the way done and they don't complete them. So they want to know why. So I created a slide deck today to share with you sort of the top 4 reasons or elements that are involved in why people aren't completing their tasks, and also a couple of top tips I want to share with you as to what you can do starting today to progress some of those items. So let's get to the slide deck. Now, it may appear obvious, but one of the reasons why you're not able to complete some of your tasks is because you're not actually in control of them anymore. Perhaps you're waiting for financial information from Bob in the accounting department. Maybe Jane needs to call you with the go-ahead on the next step. Or maybe your client has some information that you're waiting for them to give you a call about. So because the completion isn't within your control, you're not able to finish them. So they sit on your desk. Now, they don't have to sit on your desk. You can do something else with them, and we'll come back to that in a minute. But more often than not, people leave partially completed tasks on their desks that aren't within their control, and doing so creates a pile that makes the person feel overwhelmed. So there's not a lot of point in doing that, and that's why I'm going to share with you something that you can do to move them off your desk while you're waiting for somebody else to come do their bit so that the task can be completed. But as it relates to you, one of the reasons that might be getting in your way is because, like most people, you find some of the task or project exciting and some of it boring. Now maybe, and to be honest with you, usually, we can be quite engaged initially in the first stages of a project or task, and to about 70 or 80% of completion. Then we might start getting into boring things like paperwork, filling out forms, mundane data entry. You know, the sort of stuff that many people do not like doing. And because we tend to want to go after things that are exciting or give immediate feedback or instant gratification, we'll stop the task 70 or 80% complete because now it's gone into the boring stage. And we'll go off and see that, shiny squirrel because it's exciting. So that could be one of the reasons that you're not completing tasks, is because you're not thinking it through sufficiently to recognize that you're stepping into one of those stages that's boring for you and putting your nose down and just getting it done so that you can complete it. Another more important factor, though, is that perhaps there's something that you're scared, worried, or concerned about. Maybe when you're completing the task, you have to pass it on to somebody else, and you think that they're going to judge your work. You think that when you hand the task over or back to the boss, that he or she is going to say something to you, give it back to you, and show you that something's not right. Something about it is of a worry or concern to you. Whatever that is important to understand, but that may be playing a key factor in some or all of the complete tasks that you have on your desk. If you're on step 3 of a 10-step, project, maybe there's something about step 9 that you don't like. So you're going to get stuck at step 3 or step 4, put it down, see the shiny squirrel, and go off and do something else that's more exciting, that doesn't have any fear or concern about it, or, doesn't have any risk to it. And another factor that we talk about in psychology, kind of tongue-in-cheek, is something that's either known as end of project syndrome or empty desk syndrome. And this is where, in your mind, you have a judgment about somebody else who either finishes projects too quickly or has an empty or clear desk. You make some kind of negative judgment about that. In order to avoid that judgment being put on you, you keep your desk not empty. You keep tasks on your desk so that you look busy, for example. Maybe when you walk past Jack's desk and it's clean, then you're thinking to yourself, well, maybe people don't trust Jack, or maybe he's not that efficient, so people don't give him work to do. Because you're making that judgment and you don't want others to judge you that way, you're going to keep things on your desk, almost like a little fence around you. And that's another thing too. The more you think you have on your desk, perhaps the less people will give you. Oh, she's already busy, so I'm not going to put any more on her desk. Now we know that it doesn't work that way, but in the quick thinking of your mind, maybe that's an idea as well. That's part of the empty desk syndrome. If I have an empty desk, either people will judge me or they'll give me more stuff to do. And I don't want more stuff to do. So those are the 4 things. Completion isn't in your control. Maybe the task has gotten to the boring stage and shiny squirrels are more interesting. Perhaps you're afraid, worried, or concerned about something that's going to come next, or you have some judgment about other people. So in order to avoid that judgment about yourself, you don't take the next steps and complete the task as it needs to be done. All of those things fall into sort of the bell curve of how we operate. For most things, or many things in our world, we are in a bell curve, and with extremes on either the left or right-hand side. In this case, on the left-hand side, the extreme might be like a really messy desk. And on the right-hand side, the extreme might be a super clean desk. Neither one of those fit in your comfort zone. Maybe your comfort zone of your tasks, your desk, your operating space sort of fit in the middle. And that is where you want to stay. So no tip or trick or idea in the world is going to shift you to either end of the spectrum if it's not in your comfort zone. And again, your ability to determine that is really important, because if you do have a comfort zone that you're unwilling to stretch, yet you're also beating yourself up because you're not completing things, well, then you are creating the rock in a hard place. So it's sometimes just easier to have an admission than to try to change something that you're just really not interested in changing. So speaking of that comfort zone, let's have a look at some pictures. They sort of range from the super messy to the super clean. So have a look at these photos and ask yourself, which one of these am I uncomfortable with? Is it the one in the top left, which is a, total mess? It's a real desk, by the way, just so that you know. It is somebody's desk. So is it that? Am I really not comfortable with that? Or maybe you're not comfortable with this desk down here. The bottom right-hand side. Maybe you kind of like this. What sort of judgment are you making about this guy sitting at the desk? He's kind of messy, but he looks pretty cool. By the way, this is Al Gore, and the only reason I haven't photoshopped him out is because I'm not very good at Photoshop, but this is a really good example of the kind of desk that looks pretty organized. He probably knows where everything is on that desk, but it's not the tidiest desk in the world, but it kind of looks like he's important. It kind of looks like, this guy is, doing some cool things. What about this desk here on the bottom left-hand side? It's relatively neat. There's stuff on it, but not much. How comfortable are you with that? Being clear on your comfort zone is going to help you understand why it is that you either are or are not completing tasks on your desk. It plays into and is affected by the 4 things that I mentioned: the completion not being in your control, you're getting to the boring bits, you're concerned or worried about something, or you just have some sort of judgment about it. Those 4 things and this bell curve combined really sort of come together to impact the choices and decisions you make about completing tasks on your desk. So the more you know about that, the better it is for you in the end. So let's have a look at some of the things that you can do starting today to really get a handle on this, to either create a level of acceptance about things or to actually just complete tasks on your desk. Whichever thing you want to do, let's have a look at this. And of course, the first place we need to start, where I tend to always start, is that sense of self-responsibility. In particular, the truth of the situation. Are you concerned about being judged? Yes or no? Or sometimes. Are you bored by certain types of tasks? And is there anything you can do about that? Are you judging other people by the state of their desk, and are you worried about them doing that to you? What is the truth about why it is that you either are or are not completing tasks on your desk? That's the place you need to start. No tip or trick in the world is going to help unless you understand for yourself why it is that you're not completing the tasks. All that said, I do have a tip for you, and this is something I learned years and years ago when I worked in law. And this is something that you can use in relation to those things that are sitting on your desk that you're waiting on other people to provide you with some information. And this is something known as diarizing a file, diarizing a task. It is about taking that piece of work and labeling it for a date in future. This is an example of what my diarization book looks like. Now, of course, I've changed names in it and stuff like that, but this is what it looks like. So I have various files and I have various tasks. And what I do is I pick a date in future, so maybe next Wednesday or 2 weeks from Friday, and write in, for example, Smith file number 1. On the morning of that day, I go to my filing cabinet, I pull all this stuff out, all these tasks, all these files. And in law, quite often what you're doing with a file is you look at it, see that nothing has progressed and nothing needs to happen next, so you just diarize it again for a couple of more weeks. Now, if you keep doing that and there is stuff that needs to be done, well, that's a different story. I'm talking about things that are in progress but don't have an action that needs to happen today. If it has an action needs to happen today, you take it out, you put it on your desk, and you do that action. But if it doesn't, you can re-diarize it. So these are the sorts of things, tasks and files and things that need to get done. Diarize them for a date in future and remember to go and pull them out that morning from your filing cabinet. That way, those things that are sitting on your desk that are not within your control, that you can't do anything about, you can get them out of your eyesight, you can get them off your desk by using this diarization system. Works brilliantly. I used to manage hundreds of client files at the same time, just with a piece of paper and a pen and a calendar. That's how I would do it. And I never, tooting my own horn here, I never lost a task. I never lost a file. Nothing ever came out of the system. So everything got done always on time for our clients and for things that I was working on. It works brilliantly. But what also works brilliantly is when you sit down at your desk, I actually do this frequently, maybe 3 or 4 times, maybe 5 times a month I do this. And I take all the paperwork that's on my desk and I put each piece of paperwork or each note about a task into one of 3 files. The first, one of 3 piles. The first pile is for things that I can diarize. Maybe I've inadvertently put something on my desk that I can actually diarize and put away in the filing cabinet. So that's one pile. Another pile are those tasks that I can get done in 5 minutes or less. So I create a pile of things that I can do or steps I can take that will take me 5 minutes or less. And then the third pile is for things that are in progress but are going to take a little bit more time. Maybe it's going to take me an hour to type up a certain report or something. That's in pile number 3. So at the end of that, your desk will be clear and you'll have these 3 piles. Interestingly, when we have a look at the research, which pile do you think is the smallest? It's pile number 3. Pile number 3 is generally the smallest, the one that the next task is going to take longer than 5 minutes. That's generally the smallest pile. The next smallest pile, which one do you think? It's actually the first pile, the things that you need to diarize. Most of the tasks or next steps sitting on your desk are 5 minutes or less. Most of them, for most people. So get rid of the stuff that you've diarized, put it in your filing cabinet or somewhere else. Take the pile of things that's going to take you a little bit longer to do, put it off to one side of your desk. And for the next 15, 20, 25 minutes, do next steps on that pile of things that are 5 minutes or less. Do something. Don't just pile them up and leave them there. Do some of them. Get them done. And if the pile's super huge, spend 40 minutes or 50 minutes doing a whole bunch of stuff and getting the next steps done. That's the best way to get things completed, get tasks moving and progressing so that you're getting things done, and to clear up your desk and fit it into your comfort zone. Remember, get your desk to fit in your comfort zone, or, maybe I always encourage people to go a little bit outside of their comfort zone. So, if you generally don't like it too tidy, just tidy it up a little bit more today than you normally would. Anyway, I leave that up to you, but start with the diarization process and these 3 piles. Those are the best places to start. In my book, Procrastinate Now, Rethinking Time Management, which you can get for free from my website as a downloadable PDF at NancyMorris.com. It's smack bang on the front page of the website, so just go there, NancyMorris.com. There are 107 other things to think about regarding time management. I personally believe that time management is a misnomer. We shouldn't be paying attention to time management. Nor is it appropriate to think that procrastination is a bad thing. In fact, science shows that procrastination is one of the key reasons that people are successful. And you sort of think, what? Key reasons that they're successful? Holy cow, how can that be? Well, download a free copy of my book, and in the first 18 pages, you'll understand why. You will completely understand why. So I invite you to download that. We don't complete things for a variety of reasons. I've shared with you the top four, or four of the biggest reasons and elements involved with not completing things. You can follow me on Facebook or LinkedIn, or do feel free to go to my website, download a copy of the book, or send me an email, Nancy@NancyMorris.com, if you have any questions about what I'm talking about. Because what I really want to have happen is for you to walk away from the end of from your desk at the end of the day, feeling a sense of completion and accomplishment. So I hope the information I've shared with you today has been useful for you. Try it out. You've got nothing to lose, really. So give it a shot. And I look forward to talking to you again soon. Take care.